Hello, everyone. And in another primetime game for the New York Giants, it ends up in another crushing defeat. This one is going to be special for one of us, and that is going to be me, because I am going to let everyone know what I think at 12:11 on Tuesday morning, because this team had to keep me up this late to record this episode. And just like Alex, uh, everyone listening is going to have to, I think, agree with what I'm going to say. I think most of them will agree, if not all of you Giants fans. But we do have to go to our fundamental roots of how we do things here. Um, Alex, I don't know if you want to start with the penalties. I don't know if you want to start with Jones, the recurring theme of missed opportunities, especially towards the end of the game. How are you doing? I guess I'll start with that, and then you can go into whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't exactly how I was hoping to spend my, I guess at this point, Tuesday morning talking about and recapping, but the Giants are god awful. They are terrible. The Giants are borderline unwatchable at this point, and I don't know how many more times we can get on here and repeat the same things about Daniel Jones, the same silly mistakes, the same penalties that take away from this already slow moving offense, and it's just like a recurring cycle, and it's a going on and on and on about the same things, and then each week with the Giants, there's a new bonus category of something stupid that goes wrong. And this week, it's the absolutely insane 2 point conversion attempt where the offensive line or wherever they're even the offensive linemen who are standing on the left side of the field decide to not even move while Daniel Jones passed it to Malik Neighbors, who was instantly hit, which might have been one of the craziest plays I've ever seen, maybe second to the Joe Judge QB sneak on third down on his own 5-yard line a few years back. But the Giants are hilariously embarrassing, despite the scoreline saying that they kept it somewhat close within a one-score game, I guess. But they are absolutely awful, and it is tough to watch this team week in and week out.
Alex, I'm trying to think of games. The Buffalo Bills game from last year, I was pretty enraged. I remember yelling about that, and the Giants couldn't complete a pass to Darren Waller for a game-winning touchdown. I think it was in that one. Um, I was talking to you about this before we hopped on. Like, this might be like the worst sports night I've had this year, and I was talking about it before about how it could be so exciting. I had one of my three favorite teams, excluding the Islanders, the Knicks, the Yankees, and the Giants playing simultaneously for the first time in who knows how long. And all three of my teams lost tonight.
Yeah.
Yankees go down 3-0 in the World Series, cherry on top. The Knicks can't complete a win against the Cavs, and I'm really sorry. I know it's a Giants podcast. And then the Giants, there you go, lose on Monday Night Football, which what else should I expect? But this sucked. This sucked. 4 legal shifts and formations tonight. Didn't chip TJ Watt, the biggest play of the game. So I guess we'll move, Alex, in the order of our foundation of these recap episodes and do offense, defense. But I would like to add in coaching in the beginning here, and Brian Daboll specifically. His play calling is terrible. His play calling is atrocious. Whatever that 2-point conversion was, and I said this to you when I was walking back to my room before we recorded, that was the worst 2-point conversion attempt I have seen in my life. I have watched football for a decade that I can remember. I'm 19 years old. I've been watching football since I was 9. That I can remember. I have never seen a worse 2-point conversion attempt than what I saw. We had about 6 offensive linemen lining up on the top left of your screen, what you were watching, with Malik Neighbors behind them, and like 3 guys with Daniel Jones in the backfield and shotgun. And again, I'm recalling this from memory, so I could have a couple of those mixed up. But it is very obvious where Daniel Jones is going to throw the football, which is fine. However, not a single offensive lineman in front of Malik Neighbors, where the whole point is to block the shit out of those defenders so we can score the 2-point conversion, did their one job. So then Malik Neighbors catches the ball and immediately gets thrown to the ground 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So that was that 2-point conversion. Now, throughout the rest of the game, Tyrone Tracy bailed out Brian Dable a couple times in this one. 20 carries, 145 yards and touchdown. We'll get to him later. Phenomenal, stellar performance. The one outlier, one of two, I should say.
Yeah.
Brian Dable is putting this offense into really bad situations, and it's not only on the coaching. It's on Daniel Jones too. But I did need to throw in a Brian Dable thing in the beginning of the show because I wouldn't be doing my services as, a podcaster talking about this team if I didn't do so. Is there anything you'd like to respond to that before I talk about Daniel Jones, Alex? Because once I start with that, you're going to have to sit back for a second.
I mean, there was 2 positives, 2.5 positives in this game for me. Tyrone Tracy being one of them on the offensive side of the ball, Azeez Ojulari on the defensive side of the ball with 2 sacks, and a half a credit for Darius Slayton, who I think had a pretty solid game as well. But besides those 3 guys, there is not a lot of positive things to say about pretty much anybody else. Maybe Greg Joseph, if you want to throw in the fact that he made all his field goals. But besides that, absolutely awful from every other player on the field. There was no positives whatsoever from anybody else. And that's frustrating to see, but I'll let you carry on with Mr. Jones because I can't even talk about him at this point. I'm so upset.
You know what, Alex? I will. I'll save the best for last. So Tyrone Tracy, 20 carries, 145 yards, 7 yards a carry, and a touchdown. This guy is part of our future. I mean, what a running back. What a stellar performance in this game from a, later round pick that the Giants made to quote unquote replace Saquon Barkley with Devin Singletary there. Devin Singletary is out of the question. I mean, Tracy's starting every single game for the rest of the year. There's no 50-50. There's no 60-40. It's
maybe not next week,
30 and beyond.
Maybe not next week. It looked like he was probably out with a concussion, so hopefully he'll be okay. Obviously,
Giants in the plague of concussions this year. And then Darius Slayton, 4 catches for 108 yards, always looking like Daniel Jones' number 1 guy. Also had a big catch late in this game. Malik Neighbors, 7 catches for 71 yards, looking like himself. And Theo Johnson got involved a little bit, especially with the big catch over the middle to help the Giants out late. All right, here we go. Daniel Jones, 24 for 30 in this game, 264 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. Daniel Jones, where do I start? Well, I think I'm going to actually start with the end. Daniel Jones has an opportunity with the Giants down 8 to drive them down the field. They're at Pittsburgh's 19-yard line and a strip sack fumble. And I'm not pinning this one fully on Jones, actually. You're leaving Jermaine Illuminor one-on-one with one of the best players, bare none, like best players, offense, defense, regardless, in the NFL. I mean, you want to talk about top 3 of defensive players, then fine. That's an equal 2. And TJ Watt, you're leaving that guy in one-on-one with Jermaine Illuminor. You know what the result's going to be. And he gets a strip sack off the edge and fumbles. Daniel Jones hits him on the shoulder. That's acceptable. I don't fully find that on Jones. I think that's acceptable to say that. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I mean, they were generally very bad up front today. Runyon didn't have a great game either. Just the whole line really struggled. And, like you mentioned, those are some very, very elite players on that defensive line for the Steelers, but they just have to do better. And they need to do better going forward, no matter who the opponent is. And the loss of Andrew Thomas is obviously very difficult. And Illuminor definitely had his worst game of the season. And, it's not all on Jones.
He had a bad game, Alex. He had a bad game, Jermaine Illuminor did today.
Yeah, it's not all on Jones for sure. But as a quarterback, as a $40 million a year paid quarterback, the excuses need to be somewhat pushed aside and some more of the blame needs to be pushed on him, obviously. But the line definitely did not help tonight.
All right, so let's go to the final drive of the game, shall we? The Giants, with no timeouts, have to go all the way down with about 2 minutes left in the game and tie this one. Not only get a touchdown, but a 2-point conversion too. They start at their own 7. I mean, this is a long drive. But somehow they do it. And what really helps them is a pass to Theo Johnson for 25 yards over the middle with 1:15 left in the fourth quarter. Gets them to about midfield. And they keep on chugging along. The Giants end up with a pass to Malik Neighbors for 15 yards with 47, I think it was like 30 to 40 seconds left around. The Giants have the ball after a incompletion on a 1st and 10. Now, it sucked with the connection with Neighbors, and they weren't able to connect there. And Pittsburgh celebrating because they got an incompletion, whatever. Jones has another opportunity. He has a couple opportunities. They have the ball at the 35-yard line. And Daniel Jones does what Daniel Jones does best. I have not seen an NFL quarterback throw so hesitantly in my life. I don't know how else to really say it besides that the guy has 2 open players 10 yards down the field, right? He has his running back out of the backfield, and he has Theo Johnson right over the middle of the field. Right over the middle of the field. And what does he do? I'm like watching the replay as I see this right now. He throws the worst ball ever in a double coverage, like he's throwing to the team with the darker jersey. Does he know he's wearing white? Does Daniel Jones know he's wearing white and red numbers? I don't think so. Because he threw it not only over his running back's head, but it was over his head by 10 yards. That was a horrific throw. Horrific. That was terrible. And it was crazy because the Steelers almost didn't capitalize on that. Alex, it was almost dropped. It was bobbled because they were so surprised. How could a quarterback throw such a bad throw that it ended up in my hands?
Yeah.
That throw was awful. He is the most careless quarterback. I don't understand. You're in the NFL. You've been a veteran in this league. You are a veteran in this league. You've been in the league for 6 years. That's a veteran. And yet, he still doesn't understand how to read the field, which is like one of the main jobs that you need to have as a quarterback in the NFL, as a quarterback in general, whether you're playing in Pee-wee at 10 years old or now as a 6th-year NFL veteran, is survey the field and find the open player. And the thing is, there were 2 guys on my screen when I was watching. I don't even have the full 11-on-11 view. I don't even need all 22 to see that there were 2 players 10 yards in front of him, wide open, and he doesn't hit them. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the problem for Jones has been he just stares down receivers, and it was Neighbors all night tonight. At that play you're talking about, it was Singletary, obviously, but he just stares these guys down, and Neighbors really wasn't getting going much in this one, and Darius Slayton was the real chain mover for the Giants, and the fact that you just keep staring down Neighbors, not looking at anyone else on the field. Wan'Dale Robinson, his name was barely mentioned throughout this entire game. It's just they need to absolutely do better. As Josh puts up the absolute disgusting view that I see of this Daniel Jones interception.
Yeah, I'm sorry for everyone listening, but I do for everyone watching if that focus. So there you go. So Daniel Jones, I'll explain to everyone listening. Daniel Jones in the pocket, right? There are 2 players 10 yards away from him, one being Theo Johnson, one being Singletary, in the middle of the field, wide open. There is not a defender in the view of the camera. There is no one. Where does this ball go? Jones throws it here. Here. How do you throw it there? He throws it in the corner of the screen on the right corner.
Yeah. And I think the problem is he's not decisive enough, and he's too nervous. He's not making decisions at the rapid pace that you need, the processing of an NFL quarterback. And he's not a starting caliber quarterback in this league. And unfortunately, we all hope he would be, but 6 years later, we're all sitting here and the same mistakes are happening that he had, in his first season that we are having here in year 6. And it's as simple as that. He's not good enough. And the Giants know that. Brian Dable knows that. And he's not going to be a Giant much longer. That I think could pretty much guarantee you at this point. And It's really unfortunate situation, but this offense just cannot get moving with him behind, with him at the QB spot. And it's as simple as that. And really, that's all you need to say about the offense when, Daniel Jones is under center, because the offensive line could be elite. The wide receivers could be elite. Maybe he'll be okay. But with a team with any sort of flaws whatsoever, Daniel Jones is going to make sure that those are exposed. And that's just the unfortunate case here with the Giants.
I'm just going to repeat it one more time, Alex. I know you said that I repeat a lot with these rants or whatever, but I have to say it. When you have two guys wide open in the middle of the field, I don't understand how you don't hit them right then and there. But
you're paid $40 million for a reason. Yeah.
The craziest part is on Singletary's curl, he leans towards the sideline and he's still kind of open. And Jones ends up throwing it to him and he throws it over 10 yards over him. And I said it once and last time, it's just like in 6 years, you practice this. I said this to you before we recorded, Alex. This is something that he talks about in the press conference all the time, probably. He's probably going to talk about it again tonight. Is to say, well, we'll keep practicing it. These are what Dable talks about all the time. We practice 2-minute drills to prepare for the end of games. That is a part of practice. Probably every other practice is 2 minutes.
Josh, he doesn't have the it factor. It doesn't matter. He could be out there practicing 100 hours a day. It doesn't
You're
matter.
right.
Daniel Jones is not it.
He's not it in prime time, especially though. That's what I'm saying. Like this is not, and we talked about this after the Bengals game. This is not like it's just a matter of fact sort of thing. This is a trend. This is something you need to address. Like, this is not, it happened once, like, and it happened, 2 other times. Like, look at that. How ironic.
Who play the best, the QBs who play the best under the lights, the QBs who play the best in the playoffs, those are guys who have the it factor. They have that innate ability to win games. They have that innate ability to do special things on the football field. And Daniel Jones does not have that ability. And you could see that from pretty much year 2 to maybe year 3 at the latest. And the fact that the Giants, at this point in time have seen you need a QB. We've seen Pat Mahomes. We've seen Josh Allen. We've seen guys now even like CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels now emerging this year as a rookie. Those guys have the it factor, and that's why they are going to be serious contenders going forward. Teams like the 49ers, even with Brock Purdy, yes, he has a little bit of that, but they're struggling this year. They're struggling, and they're not going to be able to get over the hump because you need a top-tier quarterback to win in this league, and a below average one like Daniel Jones is just not going to cut it in 2024.
All right. Well, don't worry. We'll have the whole rest of the season to keep talking about Daniel Jones until they bench him, which we'll find out how soon that'll be. All right, Alex, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Giants defense.
Are you saying on the chip play, are you saying Daniel didn't make the right check, or are you saying it didn't get communicated?
It wasn't a check. He was going, pressure situation was a clock. We had a shift with the tight end to get back over to Watt, and we didn't get the shift. So we talked about it in the locker room. DJ feels terrible, to be honest with you. And I know he's going to own it. He came up here to say he owned it. There was a shift that was accompanying the play. He was kind of surveying the coverage, deciding what he wanted to do, and we didn't get the shift. And they were lining up with him in different, sometimes they were lining up with him left a little bit more than they have. So we were making sure that if we put a chipper there, that he didn't line up opposite. So we were shifting to try to get the help where we needed to get the help.
All right, coming back now with the Giants defense. I mean, the Giants could not stop the run for their lives in this one. In the first half in particular, Najee Harris was running wild. Jaylen Warren was running wild. And that ended up leading to the Giants having to commit more to the run in the second half. And when that happened, they left their DBs one-on-one, and they were absolutely cooked by that Steelers receiving core. And that's really what changed the game. They couldn't stop the run in the first half. They couldn't stop the pass in the second. And, a lack of depth in that interior defensive line, a lack of tackling by the DBs, and a lack of solid coverage by the DBs later in the second half really told the story for the Giants. And a very, very thin DB room, and Deonte Banks even getting benched in the second half with limited backups there to replace him, which really shows you how bad he was playing and how little faith Brian Dable has in his ability, not just to play, but his ability to put in that 100% effort that has been questioned over the past few weeks, and really, really concerning stuff with him. And that's the main, I think, takeaway here is Deonte Banks. You were hoping this guy could be a number one corner. And if he can't even stay on the field to cover a guy who, in George Pickens, who's a very, very good receiver in this league, don't get me wrong, but not a, alpha number one wide receiver in this league that you're hoping that your CB1 could cover. And if he's getting, thrown around so badly by George Pickens, there's definitely some very big concerns going on for Banks. And this DB room definitely needs to be worried. And the lack of depth today was very apparent and very frustrating to watch both in the first and second halves.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the defensive backs, Alex. You're talking about the negatives. You're talking about these, the running game, all of these factors.
It's hard not to go to the negatives first in this one, unfortunately.
That's fine, but I'm not doing that. But Alex, 9 points in the first half. I mean, we speak about it every week. The Giants are playing good teams, but this defense is really holding them in these first half of games. And the only reason that they're not doing it for the full length of the games is because the offense can't stay on the field. So then you have 3-minute segments, 5-minute segments even, that the offense is off on the field and they get off and the defense gets tired. And that's why, yes, it sucks and they shouldn't allow it that they're converting these 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 11s. That was crazy on that one touchdown drive. However, the Bengals, right? It was 7 points in that first half or something like that. Yeah. The Eagles, it was 14 points. The Seahawks, it was 10 points, something along those lines. These are good teams on offense, and this Giants defense is bearing down. Yes, I know Najee Harris really did well in this game, over 100-yard rushing. But look, we had Tyrone Tracy on our side doing the same thing to their defense. This Giants team and this defense specifically really holds strong. But what holds them back is not in their control, and that is the lackluster offense. If the Giants defense, especially the defensive line, is one of the top defenses, and I truly believe this. Sure, you call me biased. This Giants defense is one of the top 10 defenses in the league. And you know what? I'm going to say that, or at least 100% in the first half, especially the defensive line. Bobby Okereke with a half a sack, 14 tackles today, forces that fumble in this game on Russell Wilson. You talk about Azeez Ojulari, 2 sacks today. I believe that extended his total on the year to 6. Micah McFadden with a half sack and helped out on that fumble. Brian Burns, 3 QB hits today and a sack. This defense is solid, man. It just really is unfortunate that they're not getting rewarded for how good they've been because of a 1, 2-6 losing record, and 2, because of a poor offense. And I think if this offense didn't have Daniel Jones throwing the balls, then maybe they get some credit. Maybe they get talked about more. So I low-key, I feel bad. I feel bad for this defense.
I was half joking last time, Josh, when I said that we really don't even need a second half after the break of our episodes where we talk about the defense, because pretty much the offense tells the whole story. And I think that kind of proves the point. But I mean, I look at it like, hey, the offense is obviously terrible, but we still have to judge the defense on what they do. But obviously you have to take a big grain of salt with that. And it's tough, like you said, when the Giants can't control the ball, when the defense is on their heels at all times. And there's only so much they can do. And they were very much flooded by injuries in that in the cornerback room, obviously, which really made it difficult. And, when those guys are having to play one-on-one coverage and they're tired and they're out there late against some pretty talented receivers, it's just never going to end well for the Giants. And, that's just the way it is. And this defensive line has really been producing at an elite level in ways that, have been actually pretty history breaking for this Giants team. And the fact that they're not able to take advantage of that with some, at least average offense is very, very disappointing. But I guess, Josh, unless you have anything else to say about the defense, there's one more segment of the football field that we should talk about briefly because of the score that the Steelers had with Tavon Austin. Special teams, big punt return, 73-yard touchdown. Giants took the worst angles I might have ever seen on a punt return in history. Tavon Austin takes it to the house. Obviously, there was some controversy there with maybe a roughing the kicker, which at least I thought it was roughing the kicker. Again, maybe I'm biased, but who knows? But just not good enough from the special teams unit. Matt Hawk not having a great night in the punting department. And, Greg Joseph hit his field goals. So I guess you can't complain anything about him. But punt return coverage definitely needs to be better. And even the punt return game for the Giants, very minimal. And they're just not winning the special teams battle. And that's not going to help either when your offense is struggling.
Alex, and there's one more thing on defense too, and I guess this alludes to the punt return as well. This Giants defense can tackle. They had trouble tackling tonight for sure. There's one play I recall with George Pickens getting probably 10 extra yards than he should have had because he jukes out 3 Giants defenders because they can't get to his lower body and tackle him, and get to his legs. So that's definitely another thing to note. But with that, it's just really another primetime game, another primetime loss to the team, something we've seen before, something we'll see again. As long as Daniel Jones is still the team's quarterback and as long as Brian Daboll is still calling these plays, because, those two are a combined lethal weapon for this team's demise. I'm going to be quite honest with you. And I want to make it clear. I'm not saying Brian Daboll as a head coach. I'm saying Brian Daboll as a play caller. He either needs to really change up this system completely or take his role back and give it to someone else, because no more of this nonsense. That's what this is, nonsense. The Giants, Alex, are going to go into a red hot game winning Commanders team. That's normally a cakewalk in recent years for the Giants. That always seems to get their few wins of the season against the Commanders, who are now 6-2, leading the NFC East, coming off an absolute unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime Hail Mary against the Chicago Bears on Sunday. And although we're home at MetLife, it doesn't matter because that team's going to have all the momentum coming in. And I think Jaden Daniels and his squad are going to, truly embarrass the Giants. I see that happening for sure. So until then, we thanks so much for listening and or watching this episode of the Giant Take Podcast. We appreciate you for joining us, and hit that subscribe button down below, 5 stars, all that good stuff on the podcast platform. Subscribe because we're here for you at 12:40 in the morning. So, be here for us in that department. We really appreciate it. Our socials, the Giant Take Pod on all social media platforms. And then Alex on Twitter at Ignoring23. I'm on Twitter at JoshSolo29. Thank you so much again. And that's all I got, Alex. That's all I got.
Yeah. I'll reiterate it. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hope everyone has a great, shorter week, I guess, now. And I guess we'll see you. Looking forward to the Commanders later this week. Peace.